I believe all mammals feel some kind of love. In some of them, including us, the feeling is not just about bonding to infants, it's about forming relationships between the parents. It works, but for us even this is not enough. Evolution needed something more to make things happen.
My home and you, I still recall.
The thing is, we are unique in that we not only form couples, but are also highly social. The easy solution would be to start a relationship with someone in your tribe, but in the long run, that leads to inbreeding. It means the genes deteriorate. Unfortunately, finding a partner outside the tribe can be difficult. Only rarely do you come across someone who fits the purpose. And the tribe needs to maintain social cohesion, so it is not good if all the single young men and women just wanders off in the forest. In short, evolution needed a mechanism that would help people find and attach to a proper partner, for then to bring that partner back to either the man's or the woman's tribe. And as I said, suitable partners are unlikely to hang out there like leaves on the trees. So if you happen to come by someone, you better jump at the chance. And for that to happen, there needs to be a snap commitment, without too much deliberations or considerations. And that's it. Evolution made us fall in love. It is a fall or a stumble. You may not realize it, but your friends can probably tell you. Love is blind. You abandon critical thinking. You're satisfied as long as the person has a superficial resemblance with whatever you look for. It's like an obsession. And scientists have taken a closer look at what goes on in the brain. They find that falling in love has characteristics shared with obsessions and addictions. In fact, the high prevalence of diseases related to these conditions may be a byproduct of the falling in love function. An arranged marriage has certain advantages. Then again, finding a partner means so much for your genes that the falling in love is associated with extremely pleasant feelings. It would be sad to miss out on that. In the Stone Age, the genes got what they wanted. The falling in love in combination with the sex drive was all it took. The baby would be there after approximately 9 months. Today we can sabotage this regime, for example by using contraceptives. The great thing is that we can still harvest the rewards, whether from falling in love, romantic love, sex, or, if we so choose, from caring for infants. The falling in love is not meant to last for more than a year or two. Then it should gradually develop into romantic love. Unfortunately, this transition is not cut in stone. Romantic love is not quite that blind. The couple is likely to find out where the shoe pinches in their relationship, and if the pinching is too strong, they may decide to part up. Both forms of love have a very strong impact on our choice of behavior. Yet humans are not the species with the strongest bonds. My guess is that humans, by nature, are some 70% monogamous, while I would put the figure for typical birds to perhaps 90%. You need to find your own tactic for making the most of what evolution offers you. Some people opt for serial falling in loves or serial sexual partners. I believe a good long-term strategy is to not go for these extra aversions, but rather opt for a long-time stable romantic relation. The pleasures may be less intense, but most likely more lasting.